Hello, my name is Riley O'Hearn, and today I will be arguing against the case that body cameras should be worn by all police officers. My opponent claims that body cameras should be worn by all local and state police officers all over the world. I argue that body cameras should actually be avoided by police officers everywhere, and here is why I feel like the negative effects of the cameras far outweigh the positives. First off, my opponent makes the claim that installing body cameras on police officers would do much more good than harm, arguing that the cameras would lower police misconduct and police brutality. However, according to Government Technology, in the year of 2016, a study at Cambridge University involving body cameras on police, which was the largest of its kind, showed that as these officers wore the body cameras, citizens' assaults on cops actually went up. This is a very interesting fact, as naturally I think everyone would assume that body cameras would indeed be a good thing for the broken relationship between the police and the public. The first advantage to body cameras that my opponent stated was that enforcers of police brutality would be put on the spot and their actions would be on video for everyone to see, meaning that they would be liable for their actions. I disagree with that statement, although I do agree that too many cops are getting away with it, and here is why. There are still too many ways for the officer to get around it. First off, we failed to address the huge gray area when it comes to recording on private property or inside a civilian's home. And would these cops be allowed to either turn them off when they were in these areas because of privacy issues? And that would in turn, I feel like it would not make the relationship any better. And that's the whole point of the camera. On top of that, according to the New York Times in 2017, the 18-month study of more than 2,000 police officers in Washington found that officers equipped with cameras used force and prompted civilian complaints at about the same rate as those who did not have them. Therefore, the whole point of giving all this money to law enforcement to purchase these cameras was to eliminate police misconduct and police brutality. And the study by the New York Times illustrates to us that they may not be having the effect that people thought that they would. Overall, the advantages my opponent claims that body cameras gives us by holding police accountable are actually not very much of an advantage, as I have shown through my sources that the body cameras don't actually have as much of an effect on the public as originally thought. The second advantage that my opponent claims body cameras have on us is that police and civilians will hopefully no longer be convicted for a crime they didn't commit or for misconduct or use of force that was maybe necessary to engage in at the time. Basically, they are arguing that the cameras will do a fantastic job of exonerating innocent people as well as innocent police officers. Again, while it does seem like these cameras would do just that and record exactly what happened, that does not mean that the people or the police officers involved would be free from the law. When it comes to holding the officers accountable for their actions, the New York Times stated in the year of 2017 that in court, the videos taken by body cameras have proved ambiguous and have failed to persuade or convince the juries that are indicting the officer or the people in question, which unfortunately often leads to a mistrial, which in turn leads to another argument basically, or a discrepancy between the public, which worsens the relationship. Basically, people thought that the body cameras would give us surefire evidence to exonerate or convict a civilian or a police officer for whatever it is that they did. However, as the report shows from the New York Times, that was not always the case. On top of all of that, the belief that these cameras will be totally beneficial to not only the police but to everyone has come into question, as a report by the New York Post illustrates to us. The New York Post report in November of 2017 stated that an officer working for the LAPD was put on the spot for planting drugs on a civilian during a routine traffic stop. The officer was unaware that his body camera actually recorded 30 seconds prior to him turning it on, which in turn is the reason that he got caught planting the drugs on the poor civilian. The problem that I have with this is, what if the officer had known that his camera turned on 30 seconds before he turned it on? Had he known that, he would have obviously turned it on at a more precise time, which probably would have forced the civilian into some serious legal troubles, as the officer was obviously looking for a way to convict him. There has to be some sort of regulations on the cameras that don't allow the officers to turn them off or on. Just think about how useless the body cameras would be if the police officers who were wearing them could turn them off and on whenever they wanted. It would absolutely 100% defeat the purpose of the cameras, in which the ultimate goal of them is to better the relationship between the police force and the public. There are way too many controversial things that could happen when the cameras were off in order for the videos to be trustworthy in court, as juries as well as judges would have no clue what may have happened off camera, reinforcing the fact that the cameras would seemingly be deemed useless and a huge waste of money. I also very quickly would like to touch on how expensive these cameras are. According to government technology, in June of 2016, the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police was given a $250,000 grant from the government to spend on 50 cameras. That's $5,000 per camera. After all the evidence I have shown to support my argument, including things like the study in the state of Washington, where 2,000 officers wore body cameras and their behavior was basically no different than behavior from cops who didn't wear them, it is even more apparent that these cameras are a waste of money. 2,000 officers times $5,000 a camera means that $10 million would have been spent on the camera experiment, which is obviously not very effective. In conclusion, the use of body cameras is not as effective as everyone thought they would be in the gray areas of police misconduct and police brutality. Studies have shown that police behavior with the cameras on is nearly the exact same as police behavior without the cameras. In turn, they are an enormous waste of money because they have not done anything to better the relationship between the police force and the public, which was the ultimate goal of the cameras in the first place.